Hi, my name is Theresa Borg. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, psychotherapist, life coach and teacher of wellbeing, mindfulness and psychology at Bromley Adult Education Centre. So today we're going to do just a little half-hour session on mindfulness, and what we're going to do is just a little bit of theory, and then we're going to do some mindfulness practice as well. So just to kind of break it up a little bit, the first thing we're going to learn, and the most important thing in mindfulness, is to learn how to breathe properly. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but most people don't know how, or have practiced themselves out of breathing correctly. So, first thing that I would like you to do is to just place your hand on your tummy. And I want you to take a great big deep breath in. Go. And then allow that breath to let go. Now, what most people experience, or what they do, is now, in a deep, efficient breath, there should be no movement in the shoulders, and the tummy should be extending out on the in-breath and relaxing over the out-breath. So just let me say that again. No movement in the shoulders, and the tummy should be extending outwards on the in-breath and relaxing down on the out-breath. So this is really important. If you watch babies, that was how you were born breathing. That's the natural way we breathe. However, most of us are stressed or anxious or rushing all the time, and so we develop breathing, very shallow breathing up here. You know, that's what happens in panic, isn't it? Okay, and lots of people are long-term stressed, and so have developed this kind of breathing without even realizing it. Now, what that means is the blood and oxygen doesn't have a chance to go around the viscera and deliver everything that's needed in the organs. And so that's why when we are in long-term stress, we tend to get dis-ease or ailments. So correct breathing, even if you're never going to do any meditation or mindfulness, is really important to develop for your health and well-being. So this is life-changing, this first bit that I'm giving you. Okay, now, so we're going to do some basic meditation to start with. And it's really important that you just get out of your head whatever you think meditation is, okay? We'll go through the theory in a moment, but really it's just a single focus, okay? Everybody can relax, and that's all it is. Get rid of all of the other stories about lotus position and chanting and all of this, okay? You can do all that, but just keep it very simple to start. So, what we're going to do in a moment, we're going to close the eyes. As soon as you close the eyes, you drop into what's called an alpha state. When I'm talking like this, my brain is in beta state. It's going a certain number of cycles per second. As soon as I close my eyes, I drop down into what's called the relaxation state, and the brain cycles start to slow, okay? Now, what we're going to be doing in our mind's eye is imagining the breath as a coloured mist. So I'll just use pink. You can use the colour of your choice. So we're going to imagine that the pink mist comes from the tummy. That'll be count 1. It's imagining it coming up the spine. So reaching here is count 2. And then we're going to imagine the mist continuing to the top of the head, and that's count 3. Now that's the in-breath. So what we're doing is giving the conscious mind something to concentrate on, so it's not thinking about your shopping and other stuff, okay? So, because you can only think of one thing at a time. So, as we breathe in, count 2 the chest, 3 reaches the top of the head, and then we just reverse that back down. 2, 1. At the same time, as you breathe in, the tummy is going to be extending over the whole of the 3 counts in, and relaxing on the whole of the 3 counts out. So lots to think about, lots to keep that mind focused on the now and not your fears or anxieties about the future. Okay, so tummy's rising and falling, watching the mist, and then finally we're going to come inside and listen to the breath. Okay, I'll talk you all through it, so you don't need to worry about remembering it all. Okay, so because if we're beginners, we can put our hand on our tummy just to make sure that we are, if the tummy's not extending naturally, that you can just gently push the tummy out, but over the whole 3 counts. So it's not breathing and then hold or wait for the mist to catch up or anything like that. You've got to pace them all, up and down, out and in. Okay, so sitting comfortably, feet flat on the floor if you can, beautiful straight spine, and we close those eyes. So keep to my lovely slow pace if you can, and from the tummy we breathe in, count to the chest, 3 the top of the head, and allow the breath to fall. Seeing the mist coming up the spine, reaching the top of the head, and allow that breath to fall. Tummy's extending over the whole of the 3 counts in and relaxing on the out. Breathing in, follow the breath to the top of the head and allow the breath to fall. So continue keeping to my lovely slow pace. Checking that the tummy's extending over the whole of the 3 counts in and relaxing over the whole of the 3 counts out. Seeing the coloured mist rising gently, hitting all those spots till it reaches the top of the head and reversing its path back down. And now listening to that breath. No gaps, no holds, one beautiful continuous cycle of life-giving breath. Now don't let your mind get into a state about, oh, am I doing this right and all of that. Just relax. It's simple, it's natural, you can definitely do it. And just while we're here, just very quickly, keep breathing, keep continuing, but if trivial thoughts do ever come into your mind, just quickly give you a couple of techniques to deal with those while we're doing this beautiful breathing. Because you're already meditating. This is it, you've done it. Never tell yourself you can't. You've already done it. If a trivial thought comes in, you acknowledge the thought. You can see it on a little cloud and just allow it to drift off into the ether. And then reset the breathing. The most important part is you come back and you reset. Doesn't matter if your mind wanders. What matters if you come back and reset. Seeing the breath, feeling the breath, listening to the breath. Another tool to get rid of those trivial thoughts. You acknowledge a thought, keeping your head still with your eyes closed. Head still with your eyes closed. You look to the left, look to the right, look to the left, look to the right, and then reset the breathing. Doesn't matter if these thoughts are coming in, don't pay them any attention. Let them go either on the cloud or with the eye movement, but return to set up the pink breath, the tummy rising and falling, and the listening to the breath. And over time, those interruptions will get less and less and less. Okay, after your last pattern of breath, I want you to gently open your eyes. So I hope you enjoyed that. That's basic meditation breathing. You can breathe, you can relax because you go to sleep, and therefore you can meditate. You've just proved it. So any stories, any rubbish your mind wants to come in with that you can't do it and the thoughts are too overwhelming, all these things, don't let yourself tell that story. Even if you can only do 1 round of breath, you can meditate. And as you practice, that will become 2 breaths before the thoughts come in, 3 breaths before the thoughts come in. And eventually you'll be able to have meditation practice with no disturbance whatsoever. It's practice. If this was a learn the guitar lesson, you wouldn't expect to know the guitar after this one lesson. You'd expect to have the basics, go away and practice. And it's the same with meditation. That's all it is. Practice, practice, practice. So now let's look at the theory. So I always like to have a quote for the day. And my quote for today is, worrying doesn't take away tomorrow's troubles, it takes away today's peace. And that really is the essence of mindfulness. Mindfulness is about coming into the now. In the moment of now, you have to stop to experience the moment of now. You have to come inside to experience the moment of now. And if you notice, your worries are always about the past or the future. And so we miss the only place that you can experience peace, which is in the now. So our lesson objectives will be to recognize what are the elements that constitutes a mindfulness meditation practice, to demonstrate correct breathing technique, which is what we just learned, and to experience a basic mindfulness practice. So we're starting with meditation. Meditation can be defined as a practice where an individual uses a technique such as focusing their mind on a particular object, could be a candle, could be beads, thought or activity, to achieve a mentally clear and emotionally calm state. So these focuses are usually the breath, as we just did there, and I always encourage people to learn to practice meditation just using the breath without any tools and things, so that you have it wherever you are. If I haven't got my candle when I'm out, I might, not be able to meditate as well as I could if I just have that breath. A mantra. So if you do transcendental meditation, for example, they will give you your own personal mantra, which is a saying that you say over and over again. It might just be a simple word, love, 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 or it might be om, or whatever it may be. A tone, as the om, etc. And sometimes we do meditations with chakras, which are the energy centers that move up and down the body. So some health benefits of meditation. I've talked about how using a correct breath, for example, will send blood and oxygen around the viscera, and in that way just makes you healthier because the body does what comes naturally to it. But it also can reduce stress and lower blood pressure and control anxiety. Now, anxiety and stress, they're fear usually. Stress technically is really too many focuses, but we talk about these things and we use language so loosely now. When people talk about being stressed, normally, there's an element of fear that I won't get this done, I've got too many things to do. That's actually fear underneath. And anxiety is also fear. That turns on your fight or flight system. Now, that's a system that what happens is when there is fear, blood and oxygen will go to the arms and legs. Because you've either got to really run or you've really got to fight. It comes from our original brain, let's call it our caveman brain, where our fears were true. A saber-toothed tiger could kill you. We weren't worrying about, work and things like this. We were worrying about life and survival. So that system, when it turns on, it turns completely on, and all of the blood and oxygen goes to the arms and legs. It comes away from the brain because I don't need to think about where and how I'm going to run. I just need to run. So when we turn off fight or flight by doing the deep breathing, that's how you turn off fight or flight by taking back control of the breath, breathing slower and from a deeper place, i.e. reversing that shallow breathing, what actually you're doing is, so the heart will pump less, it will calm down, that lowers your blood pressure, and the anxiety, because the fears are in your head, it's a story you're telling yourself about what's happening. When the blood and oxygen comes back to the front of the brain, now you can think rationally again. You can't speak to somebody who's having a panic attack. You can't tell them to calm down because there's no blood and oxygen at the front of their brain to make that rational decision. You have to turn off the deep breathing, fight or flight first with deep breathing. So it promotes emotional health. It enhances self-awareness. It can lengthen your attention span because we're focusing, we're concentrating, we're developing those skills. A single focus for maybe 20, 40 minutes. It may reduce age-related memory loss, again, because we're bringing blood and oxygen into the brain, we're increasing grey matter, and can generate kindness. The happiest person alive, the kindest person alive, when they studied monks under a MRI scanner, they found that the monks, the area of the brain that lights up for happiness, was so enhanced in the monks whilst they were meditating that their brain structure had actually changed. So it can definitely increases your happiness and kindness levels, and obviously in that way will decrease aggression. So simply put, again, what we're doing is taking control of the breath, which turns off the fight or flight system. We're returning oxygen to the front of the brain, and this results in calmness physically and a return to rational thinking mentally, where you can now tell a different story about what's happening to you. So that's when we're using the breath in day-to-day experiences to change the way we think and feel about those experiences. And that's really what mindfulness is aiming to do, to change your reaction to and your story about the events in your life which you may be defining as negative. So what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is paying attention to the present moment, the now, what's happening now, non-judgmentally, without a story, without a judgment, just as it is. Because basically every event is neutral. If I knock over a glass of wine at a business meeting, I can tell a story, oh my God, I'm so clumsy, I'm so stupid, I'm going to get sacked now, or whatever it may be. Or I can just clear it up and tell myself it was an accident, no harm done. The story that I tell myself, the judgment that I make about it, will define whether I suffer from that event or not. And I can only do that in this present moment. I've got to stop myself when I've spilt that wine from going into that negative story and tell myself it was just an accident. Nothing matters. So it's about paying attention to the present moment and your story that you're telling yourself about it. And that's really important to understand. And I just thought I'd show you this. So this is an MRI scan showing after an 8-week course of mindfulness practice, the brain's fight or flight center that I was talking about earlier, that little bit there in the red, the amygdala, involved in the initiation of the body's response to stress, as I said, and fear, appears to have shrunk. So that little red center shrinks the more that you do your mindfulness meditation practice. And that really is miraculous. And finally, 5 proven benefits of mindfulness. Again, we've talked about the decreased stress, facilitation of recovery from illness and ailments, and negative experiences because you're taking back control, decreased depressive symptoms, and an enhanced ability to deal with illness, and as I've said, improved general health. So let's now do a mindfulness practice. Okay, so what we're going to do for our mindfulness practice is we're going to start with the breathing as I taught you at the beginning. And then for mindfulness, one of the really valuable tools that you can use out there in your life, if you like, is whenever you start to feel anxious about something or stressed about something, let's say you're in the office, let's say somebody has criticised your work and you're feeling that sense of anger or powerlessness or injustice or whatever it may be. What we notice is emotions, energy emotion. And so we will feel an emotion in the body. I'll feel that powerlessness here or that sense of injustice in my gut. But it's the story that goes along with that sensation, a sense in action, that defines whether you know it's anxiety or whether you know it's excitement. The only way you know is because of the story that you've told about it. And what we'll notice is if we hold our attention into that emotion, that sensation, eventually it will dissipate away. It may get a little bit worse to start with and then it will dissipate away, because you can't be in an emotional state permanently. You just can't do it. It will wax and wane. And so with mindfulness, what we do is we go to that sense, that sensation, drop the story, and therefore once that sensation's gone, once my anger has dissipated away, I now feel calm. And now I can tell myself a different story. It doesn't matter. She didn't mean it. She's having a bad day. Maybe she had an argument with her husband before she came to work, or I did make that mistake. I'll go and apologise. So the story will change because the emotion has changed. And that really is the crux of mindfulness. So let's have a practice of that now. We're going to start with the basic breathing. And I'll talk as we're doing it, so to remind you of all the elements. And then we'll bring something to mind and just quickly, very quickly work on it with the mindfulness. Okay, so remember, beautiful straight spine, feet flat on the floor, closing the eyes, dropping down into that relaxation state. Hand on the tummy if you wish. And we breathe in, count to the chest, 3 the top of the head, and reverse the breath back down. Tummy's extending over the whole of the 3 counts in and relaxing on the out. Seeing that mist coming up the spine, reaching that top of the head and seeing it reversing back down. Breathing in, following the path to the top of the head, and allow the breath to fall. So continue keeping to my beautiful slow pace. No gaps, no holds. It's not breathe in and then wait for the count. Tummy should be extending over the whole of the 3 counts in and relaxing on the whole of the 3 counts out. Seeing the mist, feeling the tummy, and now listening to the breath. Noticing that feeling of relaxation. The cycles of the mind slow and you're coming into that very relaxed state. Don't let your mind tell yourself a story about how well you're doing it or how badly or whatever it may be. Everybody can breathe. Everybody can relax. want you to just bring to mind a very recent, nothing too deep, nothing too heavy, just a very recent event that made you feel something negative. Maybe an argument with your child or your partner. Maybe something you felt you did wrong at work. Whatever it may be, just something very gentle just to practice with. And run a little film of that scene in your mind so that you're going back to that event. Just run it in your mind, see it from kind of start to finish of it happening if you like. And just notice what you said, how you were standing, what that other person said, how they were standing. What was the feeling? Just try and get back to that feeling just for a moment, just for this practice. And just allow yourself to feel that anger or frustration or disappointment or embarrassment or whatever it may be. Just allow yourself to feel that just for a moment. And just noticing the body where you are feeling it. Is it the tummy? Is it the solar plexus just below the breasts? Is it in the upper chest? Some people feel these things in their head. Just notice wherever you feel that emotion. And still maintaining the long, slow, deep breath, just hold your attention into that sensation, but let go of the film and the story. And you can just tell yourself it's now energy moving. Ooh, how exciting. Energy moving. Just notice how that sensation is. Just holding the attention into the tummy or wherever you're experiencing it. Still breathing slowly and deeply, but telling yourself, ooh, how exciting. Energy moving. Because you can't be in two states at once. You can't be angry and excited at the same time. So by choosing to label exciting, feeling this energy. We're not excited energy, it's excited about noticing this energy. And noticing how it dissipates away with your attention. To the point that when you feel that has gone, that you can now just return to the basic observation of the breath. Tummy's extending and falling, watching the pink mist coming up and down the spine, and then listening to the breath. Let everything else then go. What you've done is you've dropped the story, and you drop the negative association with the emotion. And you've taken back control of the breath, and you've calmed the systems of the mind and the body. So this now point should feel really different. And what's happened is you've become objectified from the event. You've become removed from the event. And so that now, if you were to go back and think about it, you might see it differently. You might feel very differently about it. And you might make a completely different decision to the one that you would have made in that moment when you were angry, disappointed, frustrated. And although this is an arbitrary practice, when you learn to do this in the moment, to step back, to walk away, to take a breath, and to know that this is just a story and just a sensation, and you let those both go. Now you can think again, choose again, a different response, a different outcome in the now. And so very gently, when you're ready, only when you're ready, you can open the eyes. And so just to sum up, if the only thing that you take from today is to learn how to take control of your healthy breathing, that could be life-changing for you. But it needs practicing all day, every day, as soon as you remember. I like to tell people 5 minutes in the morning before you even get out of bed, so it becomes routine. You just prop yourself up in bed, and 5 minutes just before you go to sleep. Again, you can lie down for that, or you can be propped up in bed. 5 minutes of healthy breathing is just amazing. And what you're actually doing is you are now meditating. And when you're out all day in your life and you're stressed or you're anxious or something negative happens that you don't want to experience, you will be able to, eventually it just takes one breath, but you'll be able to take control of your breathing. Just allow the sensation to be felt and released. Return to the observation of the breath. And all this you can just take a few moments when you're well rehearsed in it. And now you'll be able to tell a different story. And although this is just a very, very tiny bit of mindfulness, there's so much more to it. I hope that that's given you something useful that you can take away with you today. So I've been Theresa Borg. All the details of the classes and courses can be found at www.baec.ac.uk, and I look forward to seeing you on some of the courses there.